The Ice Age was a world of contrasts, where beauty and danger existed side by side in every frozen landscape. Snow stretched endlessly across valleys and mountains, creating a silent, white expanse that could mesmerize and terrify simultaneously. To the cavemen who inhabited this world, every snowfall was both a spectacle and a threat, each icy gust a reminder of nature's overwhelming power. While today we might see snow as peaceful, for these early humans, it was a constant opponent, capable of bringing starvation, frostbite, and death if not respected and understood. The nights were particularly treacherous. When the sun disappeared behind the horizon, temperatures plummeted, and darkness enveloped the land. Cavemen faced the dual challenge of cold and uncertainty, knowing that even a simple misstep could result in disaster. The frozen world amplified every sound, every movement of predators, and even the crunch of their own footsteps became a harbinger of danger. Survival depended not just on physical strength, but on alertness, strategy, and the ability to anticipate the threats hidden beneath the snow. Despite the hardships, this world demanded ingenuity. Cavemen were forced to develop skills and strategies that would allow them to endure nights that seemed endless and days that offered little warmth. They had to master the art of fire, learn to track and hunt animals through icy forests, and invent clothing from the hides and furs of the creatures around them. Each of these adaptations was a silent testament to human resilience, a way to convert vulnerability into strength. The cold was relentless, but it also became a crucible in which human survival instincts were sharpened and refined. The frozen wilderness was not merely a backdrop. It was an active participant in daily life. Every river, rock, and tree presented both opportunity and hazard. Ice could provide a pathway across a treacherous stream, but could also crack without warning, plunging an unsuspecting hunter into freezing waters. Snow-covered forests offered camouflage for prey and predators alike, turning every hunt into a tense and dangerous game. The cavemen's awareness of these nuances dictated every decision, from where to set up a temporary shelter to when to move as a group to safer grounds. There was also a psychological element to surviving in such extremes. Fear was constant, but it was a necessary companion, sharpening the senses and keeping the mind vigilant. The darkness and cold forced cavemen to rely not only on their physical prowess, but also on intuition, memory, and imagination. They had to remember the hidden dangers of the terrain, the locations of caves and rivers, and the seasonal patterns of the animals they hunted. Each day was a test of endurance, a delicate balance between courage and caution. Amidst the challenges, moments of beauty and connection emerged. The frozen world, though harsh, offered glimpses of wonder. The shimmer of icicles in sunlight, the quiet elegance of snow falling onto a still landscape, the distant howls of wolves echoing across the plains. These sights and sounds reminded early humans of their place within a living, breathing ecosystem, one that demanded respect and understanding. Such moments also provided psychological relief, small reprieves from the constant tension, allowing cavemen to feel a sense of awe even as they fought for survival. This section establishes the central theme of the documentary: survival against the odds in a world governed by ice and unpredictability. It introduces viewers to the stark reality of Ice Age life, while highlighting the contrast that defined the cavemen's existence: danger versus ingenuity, fear versus resilience, death versus life. By immersing the audience in both the peril and the beauty of this frozen environment, it sets the stage for an in-depth exploration of how early humans adapted, innovated, and ultimately endured the harshest winters in history. The stage is set for a journey into human ingenuity, revealing how early humans turned vulnerability into a toolkit for survival. From fire to clothing, from hunting to communal living, each adaptation will be examined against the backdrop of extreme cold and constant uncertainty. The story is one of contrast, where moments of despair are counterbalanced by triumphs of innovation and courage. It is a narrative of life at the edge, with a fragility of existence inspired extraordinary resourcefulness, creating a blueprint for human survival that resonates across millennia. The Ice Age was a world shaped by extremes, a period when glaciers stretched across continents, reshaping landscapes and forcing early humans to constantly adapt to a harsh and unyielding environment. Vast sheets of ice covered forests, valleys, and rivers, turning familiar terrain into a labyrinth of snow and frozen stone. Temperatures dropped far below what modern humans consider survivable, and even a short exposure could result in frostbite or hypothermia. The environment was not merely cold. It was unpredictable, with sudden storms, shifting ice, and deep snow that could trap the unwary. For cavemen, the natural world was both a provider and a relentless adversary. Snowfall and blizzards were not occasional events, but integral parts of life, dictating movement, hunting strategies, and shelter construction. Rivers and lakes froze over, altering migratory patterns of prey animals and creating hidden dangers for humans who relied on these water sources. Forests, often buried beneath meters of snow, offered camouflage for both predators and prey, making survival a constant test of skill, patience, and observation. Cavemen had to develop an intimate understanding of the land, learning to read subtle signs in snowdrifts, footprints, and frozen vegetation to predict animal behavior and weather changes. Wind was another formidable challenge. The biting gusts, often traveling unchecked across open plains, could penetrate layers of clothing and seep into shelters, threatening body heat and increasing the risk of illness or death. Early humans learned to use the natural features of the terrain to their advantage, building shelters in valleys shielded from the wind or near rocky outcrops that blocked the harshest gusts. Every choice, from the placement of a temporary camp to the timing of a hunt, reflected a careful consideration of environmental hazards. Nature dictated the pace of life, and survival depended on reading its subtle cues with precision and experience. Seasonal shifts dramatically affected food availability and daily routines. During long winters, hunting became more dangerous and resources scarcer. Rivers froze, vegetation died back, and prey animals either migrated or went into hibernation. Cavemen needed to plan ahead, storing food or preserving meat and plants to endure the harsh months. The scarcity of resources heightened the tension between survival and starvation, making each day a delicate balance of risk and reward. These challenges created a constant state of vigilance, where failure could mean not just hunger but death. The Ice Age environment was also defined by its predators. Woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, and other formidable creatures roamed the frozen plains. Each encounter carried the possibility of deadly confrontation, and cavemen had to navigate the fine line between hunting for survival and becoming prey themselves. Understanding animal behavior, tracking movement patterns, and recognizing warning signs in the landscape were vital skills. The environment demanded respect, teaching early humans that strength alone was insufficient without knowledge, caution, and strategic thinking. Yet amidst this brutal reality, the Ice Age offered moments of beauty and wonder that shaped human experience. Sunlight reflecting off glacial ice created dazzling landscapes, and the aurora borealis occasionally painted the sky with vibrant colors, providing rare visual respite in otherwise monochromatic winters. The rhythm of nature, the steady fall of snow, the tracks of animals, the cracking of ice, became both a guide and a reminder of the interconnectedness of life. For cavemen, these phenomena were not merely aesthetic. They were cues and tools for survival, offering insight into weather patterns, animal movements, and seasonal changes. The environment of the Ice Age demanded a holistic approach to survival. Every element, ice, snow, wind, rivers, and forests, had to be understood, respected, and integrated into daily life. Cavemen developed strategies that combined observation, experience, and innovation, ensuring that even in the coldest and most hostile conditions, life could continue. They learned to move with the land, harness its resources, and anticipate its dangers, turning what could have been insurmountable challenges into opportunities for adaptation. In essence, the Ice Age environment was both a formidable teacher and an unforgiving adversary. It shaped the evolution of human behavior, driving the development of tools, clothing, shelters, and social structures. It forced cavemen to rely on ingenuity, cooperation, and resilience, highlighting the contrast between vulnerability and resourcefulness. By understanding this world in all its extremes, we gain insight into the daily struggles and triumphs of early humans, appreciating the intricate dance between survival and the frozen landscapes they called home. This section builds the foundation for the next chapters, linking environmental challenges to the development of anatomy, hunting strategies, fire mastery, and social cooperation. By immersing viewers in the Ice Age world, it sets the stage for exploring how humans evolved both physically and psychologically to endure the coldest nights and most perilous conditions. Early humans were far from fragile. Their bodies were sculpted by millennia of adaptation to survive harsh climates, scarce food, and constant threats from predators. While we often imagine cavemen as merely primitive, their anatomy reveals a species finely tuned for endurance, strength, and resilience. Muscle density, bone structure, and metabolic efficiency all played crucial roles in enabling them to withstand the relentless challenges of the Ice Age. Every physical trait was a testament to evolution's quiet but powerful hand, shaping humans into creatures capable of confronting freezing nights, treacherous hunts, and the unforgiving wilderness. Body composition was one of the most significant adaptations. Cavemen developed layers of fat that insulated vital organs, providing a buffer against hypothermia during frigid nights. Unlike modern humans who often rely on external heating and insulated clothing, early humans' fat distribution, muscle mass, and even skin thickness acted as a living, adaptive armor against the cold. Strong skeletal frames supported prolonged walking, running, and climbing, while lean muscle ensured both endurance and agility. This combination of power and stamina allowed early humans to track animals across vast snowy plains, haul heavy prey, and maintain activity during long periods of freezing temperatures. The extremities were particularly adapted for survival. Hands and feet, though smaller than some modern expectations, were dexterous and robust, capable of manipulating tools, climbing icy slopes, and crafting essential survival gear. Fingers had to be both strong and nimble for making fire, preparing hides, and constructing shelters, while toes and arches provided stability on slippery surfaces. Evolution prioritized functionality, enabling early humans to perform precise tasks while maintaining mobility in conditions that would cripple less adapted species. Each movement was a careful balance between conserving energy and executing essential survival actions. Metabolism played a critical role in sustaining life in cold environments. Early humans' bodies were efficient at converting food into heat, helping them maintain core temperatures despite extended exposure to freezing air. This adaptation was particularly important during winter months when caloric intake was limited and energy had to be carefully rationed. The body's ability to store fat, burn energy efficiently, and endure long periods without nourishment allowed cavemen to survive when the cold threatened to overwhelm the body. This physiological resilience was inseparable from their behavior. Humans had to hunt, gather, and move in ways that matched their metabolic needs, creating a symbiosis between biology and survival strategy. Vision, hearing, and other senses were sharpened by the demands of a perilous environment. Snow and ice could distort landscapes, making navigation tricky and hiding predators or prey. Cavemen developed keen observational skills, relying on subtle cues in the environment. Footprints in fresh snow, the rustle of branches, or the glint of sunlight on distant ice. Hearing was equally vital, allowing early humans to detect predators, distant herds, or other humans approaching from afar. These sensory adaptations were reinforced by constant practice, as attention to detail could mean the difference between life and death. Thermoregulation was another area of adaptation. Cavemen relied not only on clothing and fire, but also on their bodies' natural mechanisms to conserve and generate heat. Shivering, vasoconstriction, and behavioral adjustments like curling up during sleep were all part of a finely tuned system designed to preserve warmth. This internal regulation worked alongside external strategies, creating layers of defense against the cold. Every breath, every motion, and every posture was a small but crucial act of survival, an ongoing negotiation with a hostile environment that tested both endurance and ingenuity. Despite these advantages, early humans remained vulnerable, highlighting the constant contrast between capability and fragility. A single misstep on ice, an unexpected predator encounter, or a failed hunt could quickly turn strength into weakness. Anatomy alone could not ensure survival. It had to be paired with learned behaviors, teamwork, and acute environmental awareness. The interplay of physical adaptation and cognitive strategy underscores the complexity of human evolution, revealing how survival was a holistic endeavor, blending body, mind, and social cooperation. Understanding caveman anatomy also provides insight into their psychological resilience. Physical robustness fostered confidence, enabling humans to explore, hunt, and confront threats that might paralyze less adapted species. Knowing that their bodies could endure long journeys, harsh weather, and repeated challenges, early humans developed a sense of agency and resourcefulness, reinforcing the mental and emotional tools necessary for survival. In essence, anatomy was not merely functional. It shaped the perception of possibility, empowering humans to act decisively in life-or-death situations. In conclusion, the anatomy of early humans was a masterpiece of natural engineering. Every bone, muscle, and organ contributed to a delicate balance of strength, endurance, and adaptability. Combined with keen senses, efficient metabolism, and behavioral ingenuity, it allowed cavemen to navigate the extremes of the Ice Age with resilience and intelligence. This section lays the groundwork for understanding subsequent survival strategies, linking the physical capabilities of humans to their mastery of hunting, fire, shelter, and social organization. By appreciating the design of the human body in its prehistoric context, we gain a deeper sense of how early humans transformed vulnerability into enduring strength. Hunting was more than a means of sustenance for Ice Age cavemen. It was the lifeline that connected survival to the rhythms of the frozen world. Every hunt demanded preparation, strategy, and a profound understanding of the environment and the creatures that roamed it. In the bitter cold, the difference between a successful hunt and failure could determine whether a family ate that day or faced starvation. Prey animals provided not only nourishment, but also materials for clothing, tools, and shelter, making hunting a multi-layered act of survival. The hunt, therefore, represented the central tension of life in the Ice Age: danger and opportunity, risk and reward, predator and prey intertwined in a constant dance. Tracking animals through snow-covered plains required keen observation and patience. Every footprint, broken branch, or subtle movement of snow became a clue to the location and behavior of prey. Cavemen learned to anticipate the routines of mammoths, reindeer, and other herbivores, understanding migratory paths and feeding patterns. Silence was crucial. A single misstep or careless noise could alert prey and ruin hours of careful tracking. The environment was both guide and obstacle, shaping hunting strategies while testing the hunter's skill, resilience, and intuition. Each step through the frozen landscape was calculated, a negotiation with both terrain and chance. The hunt was also a profoundly social activity. Cooperative strategies often increased the likelihood of success, with groups of hunters working together to drive herds toward ambush points or natural traps. Communication, often nonverbal, was critical. Hand signals, subtle movements, or even prearranged patterns of noise could coordinate complex efforts. These hunts were as much a test of teamwork and trust as of individual strength and skill. The bonds forged during such high-stakes endeavors strengthened communities, ensuring that knowledge, tactics, and survival strategies were passed from one generation to the next. Weapons and tools were essential extensions of the hunter's body. Spears, atlatls, stone-tipped arrows, and clubs amplified physical power, enabling humans to challenge animals far larger and stronger than themselves. Crafting these tools required skill, foresight, and knowledge of materials. Cavemen learned to shape flint and bone into deadly precision instruments, while also mastering the art of camouflage, setting traps, and using the landscape to their advantage. Each hunt was thus an interplay of ingenuity and bravery, where preparation could tip the balance between triumph and disaster. The psychological intensity of hunting in freezing conditions cannot be overstated. Hunters had to manage fear of predators, fear of failure, and fear of injury, while maintaining focus and patience over long periods. Nights could be spent watching from hidden positions, muscles tense in anticipation, eyes straining to detect movement, while temperatures dropped and exhaustion threatened mental clarity. A single misjudgment could end the hunt or, worse, cost a life. The tension between survival instincts and calculated risk underscored the constant pressure cavemen faced, highlighting the duality of courage and vulnerability that defined life in the Ice Age. Success in hunting brought far more than food. It provided materials for warmth, shelter, and social cohesion. Hides could be transformed into clothing to ward off frostbite, bones into tools for everyday survival, and fat into fuel for fires. Even a single hunt could sustain a community for days or weeks, reinforcing the hunter's critical role within the tribe. These practical rewards were intertwined with social recognition, as skilled hunters gained respect, status, and influence within their group. Hunting was thus simultaneously a practical and cultural activity, shaping the hierarchy, cooperation, and identity of Ice Age communities. Hunting strategies also evolved in response to environmental pressures. In deep snow, some groups used drive techniques, forming lines to funnel herds into narrow passes or natural traps. Others exploited rivers and frozen lakes, where the movement of large animals was slowed or predictable. Knowledge of ice conditions, snow depth, and wind direction became critical, allowing hunters to anticipate where prey would appear and how to approach without detection. This combination of environmental literacy, physical prowess, and tactical planning illustrates the intricate relationship between humans and the frozen landscape. Predators were a constant consideration during hunting. Wolves, saber-toothed cats, and other carnivores often targeted the same prey, creating competition and danger. Cavemen had to remain vigilant, defending themselves and their quarry while executing the hunt. Sometimes, they even used predator behavior to their advantage, predicting where wolves might drive herds or where saber-toothed cats could create openings for ambush. The frozen environment amplified these risks, as deep snow or icy surfaces could impede escape and increase vulnerability. Survival required constant awareness, quick thinking, and the ability to adapt strategies in real time. Beyond immediate survival, hunting shaped the evolution of culture and knowledge. Techniques were passed down, refined, and adapted over generations, creating a repository of expertise critical to the community's long-term survival. Storytelling, demonstration, and apprenticeship ensured that young members learned not just how to hunt, but how to read the land, understand animal behavior, and cooperate under stress. Hunting thus became a conduit for knowledge, culture, and social cohesion, illustrating the interdependence of survival, community, and intelligence. In the end, the hunt epitomized the central paradox of Ice Age life, the simultaneous threat and opportunity presented by the natural world. Each hunt was a microcosm of the larger struggle between life and death, cold and warmth, vulnerability and strength. It demanded a union of body, mind, and community, forcing early humans to harness every ounce of skill, courage, and ingenuity. By understanding the hunt, we glimpse the essence of prehistoric survival, where every decision carried weight, every movement mattered, and every success brought not just sustenance, but the tools, knowledge, and hope necessary to endure the frozen nights. Fire was the most transformative discovery in human history, a line drawn between life and death in the harsh, frozen landscapes of the Ice Age. To cavemen, fire was not merely warmth. It was protection, sustenance, and a source of psychological comfort in an unforgiving world. The flames offered a temporary sanctuary from freezing temperatures, a shield against predators, and a center around which communities could gather, plan, and pass down knowledge. Every spark carried the promise of survival, and every carefully tended flame was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Mastery of fire required observation, experimentation, and patience. Early humans had to understand natural materials that could ignite under friction or spark, and how wind, dryness, and available fuel influenced flame production. Stones, wood, and dried plant fibers became essential tools in creating fire, while the ability to sustain it through the night was a matter of life or death. A single misjudgment, choosing damp wood, miscalculating wind, or failing to guard embers, could extinguish the fire, leaving a family exposed to the lethal cold. These lessons were often learned through trial and error, forming the foundation of survival knowledge passed from one generation to the next. The warmth of fire had immediate and tangible effects on survival. Around a roaring flame, cavemen could thaw frozen meat, melt snow for water, and dry hides to make clothing or shelter more effective against the cold. Fire also enabled cooking, which made food easier to digest and safer to eat, reducing the risk of illness at a time when medical care was non-existent. Beyond these practical uses, fire transformed behavior and organization. It allowed communities to remain active after sunset, extending productive hours and enabling social and strategic planning. The fire became a fulcrum around which life in the Ice Age revolved, integrating survival, culture, and psychology. Fire provided a psychological refuge from the oppressive cold. Darkness, silence, and the constant threat of predators could have easily overwhelmed the mind, but the presence of fire created a bubble of perceived safety. The flickering flames became a heartbeat in the night, a rhythmic reminder of human agency against an indifferent world. Cavemen learned to harness this effect, using fire to calm children, reduce stress, and create a sense of communal security. The mental relief offered by fire was as vital as its physical warmth, reinforcing the interconnectedness of mind, body, and environment in prehistoric survival strategies. Maintaining a fire was a continuous and deliberate task. Fuel had to be gathered, arranged, and protected from snow or rain, often requiring careful planning and cooperation. Even during hunts or migrations, groups carried embers to ensure that the lifeline of warmth was never extinguished. Fire also served as a communication tool, signaling locations to other groups or warning of approaching danger. Its presence marked territory, provided guidance across featureless snowfields, and acted as a deterrent to predators. In this sense, fire was not just survival technology, it was a symbol of power, intelligence, and foresight. The social significance of fire cannot be overstated. Gathering around the flames, cavemen shared stories, exchanged knowledge, and reinforced group cohesion. It became the center of ritual, teaching, and planning, offering a rare moment of warmth and safety in the coldest, most dangerous periods of the year. Children observed and learned, elders imparted wisdom, and hunters strategized for the following day. This shared experience strengthened social bonds and created a collective sense of resilience, emphasizing that survival was as much about community as it was about individual skill or physical endurance. Fire also altered hunting strategies and food preparation. With the ability to cook meat, cavemen could extract more calories from each kill, enabling their bodies to generate additional heat and energy. Smoke from fires could be used to drive animals or mask human scent, increasing hunting efficiency. In extreme cold, fire provided a staging point from which groups could venture into the frozen landscape with confidence, returning safely after successful hunts. The presence of fire, therefore, magnified both physical and cognitive survival capacities, making humans uniquely capable of enduring environments that would have overwhelmed other species. The interplay between fire and the natural environment was complex. Cavemen had to read the landscape to find dry wood, choose locations sheltered from wind, and ensure that fire did not threaten the very shelters it was meant to protect. Ice, snow, and moisture constantly challenged their ability to maintain flames, turning what seems simple to modernize into a precise and high-stakes skill. Mastering fire required not only technical knowledge, but also an intimate understanding of the world, reinforcing the theme that survival depended on observation, ingenuity, and adaptability. Ultimately, fire became the heartbeat of prehistoric survival. It was a source of life, a symbol of human intelligence, and a practical tool that transformed the cold, dangerous world into one in which humans could endure and even thrive. The flames illuminated the broader patterns of adaptation, cooperation, and psychological resilience that defined the Ice Age experience. Cavemen did not simply endure the cold. They learned to manipulate the environment, turning elements that could kill into instruments of warmth, safety, and community. In conclusion, the discovery and mastery of fire exemplifies the profound human ability to adapt to extreme conditions. It highlights the intersection of physical necessity, psychological comfort, and social cohesion, revealing a complex survival toolkit far beyond mere instinct. Fire allowed early humans to extend their activity into the night, improve nutrition, protect themselves from predators, and solidify social bonds, all while maintaining hope and resilience in a frozen and dangerous world. Its presence underlines a central truth of the Ice Age. Survival was not accidental, but a deliberate, intelligent response to a world that demanded courage, skill, and foresight. For Ice Age cavemen, shelter was the difference between survival and death, warmth and exposure, life and extinction. The harsh landscapes demanded more than just a place to sleep. It required a carefully constructed refuge capable of shielding humans from wind, snow, predators, and the relentless cold. Caves, natural rock formations, and makeshift huts made from bones, hides, and branches became sanctuaries where life could continue in the face of extreme adversity. Each shelter was a testament to ingenuity, blending environmental knowledge, craftsmanship, and instinct to create a space where humans could survive and even thrive. Caves were among the earliest and most effective shelters. Naturally insulated, they provided protection against the biting wind, snow accumulation, and extreme temperatures. Cavemen learned to select caves strategically, favoring locations near water, hunting grounds, or on high terrain to avoid flooding while remaining accessible. The interior space allowed for centralized fire placement, with the stone walls radiating heat and the overhead rock preventing wind intrusion. While caves offered substantial protection, they were not invulnerable. Ice, frost, and seasonal flooding posed continuous challenges, forcing inhabitants to constantly adapt their living arrangements and reinforce the cave's interior with hides and branches. In regions lacking natural caves, early humans displayed extraordinary creativity. Huts constructed from mammoth bones, tree branches, and animal hides served as portable or semi-permanent shelters. These structures were engineered to maximize warmth and stability while minimizing exposure to the elements. Layers of hides provided insulation, while frames of sturdy bones or wood supported the structure against heavy snow and strong winds. The design of these shelters demonstrates a deep understanding of physics and materials, reflecting an intuitive grasp of engineering long before formal knowledge existed. Every element, from roof pitch to wall thickness, was dictated by environmental conditions and survival needs. Snow itself became a material for shelter. In some regions, cavemen used snow to build windbreaks, insulated sleeping mounds, or even igloo-like structures. The compacted, snow-trapped air, providing thermal insulation, and its white exterior helped reflect some of the sun's light, slightly moderating interior temperatures. While such shelters were temporary, they illustrate the ingenuity and adaptability of early humans, who were able to turn the harshest element of their environment into a life-sustaining resource. Survival required not only using what was available, but doing so in a way that maximized safety, warmth, and efficiency. The interior of shelters was carefully organized to optimize heat retention and communal life. Central fires radiated warmth, with sleeping areas arranged to share body heat while remaining safe from open flames. Rocks, animal hides, and other materials were used to create windbreaks and insulating layers. Cavemen understood that shelter was not merely protection from the cold. It was also a psychological anchor, a space that offered security, comfort, and continuity. In the darkness of the Ice Age, where storms could rage for days, having a reliable shelter was a lifeline for both physical and mental well-being. The placement of shelters reflected an intimate understanding of the environment. Proximity to hunting grounds and water sources was essential, but safety from predators and environmental hazards was paramount. Shelters were often located near elevated areas, providing vantage points to monitor approaching threats, or tucked into valleys where wind was naturally deflected. This spatial awareness illustrates how survival depended not just on physical structures, but also on cognitive mapping of the landscape and the ability to anticipate natural hazards. Each location was chosen with the precision of someone who understood that one wrong step could prove fatal. Social dynamics were also influenced by shelter design. Communal living reinforced cooperation and resource sharing, as families or small groups clustered together to maintain warmth. The arrangement of space within the shelter dictated roles, responsibilities, and patterns of daily life, with elders, children, and hunters all occupying specific areas for efficiency and safety. The shelter became a microcosm of society, blending survival with social cohesion, teaching, and the transmission of knowledge. In this way, shelters were not only physical constructs but also instruments of cultural continuity. The materials used for shelters reveal the ingenuity and adaptability of Ice Age humans. Bones, stones, wood, and hides were carefully selected, prepared, and assembled to withstand extreme conditions. Hides were stretched and sewn to provide waterproofing and insulation, while bones were used as structural supports capable of bearing heavy snow loads. Even small details, such as arranging stones to reflect heat from the fire or creating elevated sleeping platforms, contributed to survival. These choices demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of resource management, emphasizing that survival in the Ice Age was as much about clever use of materials as it was about physical strength or courage. Shelters also had to adapt over time. Seasonal changes, migration patterns, and wear from storms required continuous maintenance and innovation. Early humans repaired, reinforced, or abandoned structures based on environmental cues and available resources. This flexibility ensured that shelters remained effective in the face of changing conditions, highlighting the combination of foresight, experience, and creativity that defined prehistoric ingenuity. Shelter was not static. It was a living system, constantly adjusted to meet the demands of an unpredictable world. Ultimately, shelters were both practical and symbolic. They represented security against the deadly elements, a stage for social and cultural activities, and a locus for the psychological reassurance necessary to endure extreme winters. By constructing spaces that combined protection, warmth, and community, cavemen transformed a hostile landscape into one where human life could be sustained. The design and use of shelters illustrate the interplay between environment, ingenuity, and social structure, showing how humans converted vulnerability into a structured system of survival. In conclusion, the development of shelters demonstrates the extraordinary resourcefulness of Ice Age humans. From caves to huts to snow-based structures, each solution was carefully adapted to environmental conditions, social needs, and survival imperatives. Shelters were not mere refuges. They were centers of life, learning, and resilience. By mastering their surroundings and constructing spaces that protected body and mind alike, cavemen created the foundations for enduring the coldest nights of the Ice Age, highlighting the profound intelligence, adaptability, and foresight of our earliest ancestors. In the relentless cold of the Ice Age, survival depended as much on insulation as on fire or shelter. Early humans were clever, resourceful, and acutely aware that their bodies alone could not withstand the freezing temperatures. Clothing became a crucial extension of survival, a physical barrier against frostbite, hypothermia, and exposure. Far more than decoration or status, every layer of hide, fur, or woven material represented ingenuity, adaptability, and the practical application of observation. Humans learned to transform raw animal hides into garments that protected them against the brutal elements, turning vulnerability into resilience. Animal skins were the primary source of warmth. Early humans hunted and trapped animals not only for food but also for their hides. Woolly mammoths, reindeer, and smaller game all provided critical insulation when properly prepared. The process of transforming raw hides into wearable clothing required knowledge, skill, and patience. Hides had to be scraped clean of fat and hair, softened through rubbing, drying, and sometimes smoking, and then shaped into functional garments. Even simple garments required precise cutting and stitching, often using bone needles and sinew threads. Each layer of clothing was a deliberate choice, designed to maximize warmth and mobility while minimizing energy loss. Layering became a sophisticated survival strategy. Early humans quickly learned that multiple thin layers of hide or fur could trap air between them, creating an insulating effect far superior to a single thick garment. They combined skins of different animals to achieve optimal warmth, toughness, and flexibility. For example, a reindeer hide might provide warmth, while a tougher hide like bison could be used for outer protection against wind and abrasion. This layering strategy demonstrates both careful observation and a deep understanding of materials, an early form of engineering applied to human survival. Clothing also served functional purposes beyond warmth. Certain designs allowed mobility for hunting or gathering, while others protected against snow, ice, and rough terrain. Fur hoods or wraps shielded the head and face from biting winds, while leggings and boots insulated extremities most vulnerable to frost. Every stitch, seam, and wrap reflected a practical response to the harsh environment, emphasizing that clothing was not merely a convenience, but a critical tool for life. In many ways, clothing amplified human capability, allowing individuals to endure conditions that would have been fatal without proper protection. The creation of clothing reinforced social bonds and cooperation. Constructing garments often required multiple people, from skinning animals to scraping hides and sewing pieces together. Elders or skilled artisans passed down techniques, ensuring knowledge survived across generations. Clothing, therefore, became a shared enterprise, an investment in collective survival. The distribution of garments also reflected social dynamics. Ensuring children, elders, and key hunters were properly insulated was a matter of life and death, reinforcing trust and cooperation within the group. Clothing also had symbolic and cultural significance. Early humans may have used certain furs or decorations to indicate skill, status, or role within the band. A well-crafted garment could signify a hunter's success, a caregiver's skill, or a leader's authority. These symbols were intertwined with survival, as respect, recognition, and social cohesion directly influenced cooperation, resource allocation, and collective safety. Even in the harshest conditions, clothing was a bridge between practicality and identity, reinforcing both physical and social survival. Innovation in clothing was constant. Humans experimented with different preparation techniques, stitching methods, and combinations of materials. They discovered that certain furs retained heat better, that specific sewing patterns prevented tearing, and that multiple layers could be efficiently combined for both warmth and mobility. Clothing, like other survival tools, evolved through trial and error, observation, and intergenerational knowledge transfer. Each improvement had a direct effect on survival, allowing humans to endure colder climates and longer winters than would have otherwise been possible. The psychological benefits of clothing were equally profound. In extreme cold, Even small measures of insulation provided comfort, confidence, and a sense of security. A properly dressed individual could focus on hunting, gathering, or constructing shelters rather than constantly battling the debilitating effects of cold. The contrast between exposure and protection, vulnerability and preparedness, underscores the importance of clothing as both a physical and psychological survival tool. Clothing also enabled migration and exploration. Humans could venture further into frozen landscapes, follow migrating herds, or cross icy rivers without succumbing to cold. The ability to create wearable insulation expanded the geographic range of Ice Age humans, allowing access to resources that would otherwise remain untapped. In this way, clothing was not merely a defense against the elements. It was a tool that shaped human movement, strategy, and opportunity. Ultimately, clothing was a triumph of observation, ingenuity, and foresight. It transformed human vulnerability into resilience, enabling early humans to endure some of the harshest climates in Earth's history. Each garment, each carefully prepared hide, was a product of knowledge, skill, and collective effort. In the frozen expanse of the Ice Age, clothing represented more than survival. It embodied human adaptability, intelligence, and the capacity to manipulate the environment in ways that ensured life could continue even against the coldest odds. In the bitter cold of the Ice Age, clothing was far more than decoration. It was literal armor against freezing temperatures, wind, and snow. Cavemen had to develop garments that would protect the body from hypothermia while allowing mobility for hunting, gathering, and survival tasks. Every piece of clothing was a product of observation, experimentation, and adaptation, crafted to meet the extreme demands of an environment where exposure could mean death within minutes. Clothing became a vital extension of a human body, enabling early humans to endure conditions that would overwhelm an unprotected body. The primary material for clothing came from animals. Hides, furs, and skins provided essential insulation, trapping body heat while shielding against wind and moisture. Thick winter coats from mammoth, bison, or reindeer furs were particularly valuable, offering warmth comparable to modern insulated fabrics. Early humans mastered the art of preparing hides, cleaning, stretching, and tanning them to improve flexibility and durability. These skills were essential not only for warmth, but also for creating garments that could withstand repeated use and the harsh friction of snowy landscapes. Layering was a key strategy. Cavemen learned that multiple layers could trap heat more effectively than a single thick garment. Inner layers of softer fur or hide provided comfort and insulation, while outer layers acted as a shield against wind, moisture, and abrasion. This principle of layering reflects a sophisticated understanding of thermodynamics, discovered through trial and error. Each layer had a purpose, and the combination of materials allowed humans to regulate temperature, maintain mobility, and survive even in sub-zero conditions. Sewing and fastening techniques were essential innovations. Early humans used sinew, plant fibers, and thin strips of hide as thread, stitching garments together with remarkable precision. Bone needles and awls allowed for intricate construction, ensuring that seams were secure and gaps minimized. This craftsmanship not only improved warmth but also enhanced durability, enabling garments to endure harsh conditions without frequent repair. The process required patience, skill, and knowledge of materials, demonstrating that survival depended as much on ingenuity as on brute strength. Clothing was also adapted for specific activities. Hunters required mobility and silence, so garments are designed to allow swift movement without rustling, blending camouflage with functionality. Hunters often added fur from animals that lived in the same environment, matching colors and textures to improve stealth. For daily life around shelters, heavier garments provided maximum warmth during periods of inactivity or sleep. These functional distinctions illustrate that clothing was not uniform. It was carefully tailored to meet the demands of environment, task, and season. Accessories played a significant role as well. Mittens, boots, hoods, and belts all contributed to warmth and practicality. Footwear made from layered hides protected against frostbite while enabling movement over ice and snow. Hoods and wraps shielded the head, ears, and neck, critical areas for conserving body heat. Every detail, from the placement of fur trims to the choice of stitching patterns, reflected an understanding of both anatomy and environmental conditions. Clothing was a blend of science and art, each piece carefully designed to optimize survival. Clothing also had social and psychological significance. It marked skill, experience, and status within groups, with well-crafted garments reflecting both survival expertise and social standing. The ability to produce reliable clothing could earn respect and trust, especially in communal survival efforts. Moreover, clothing provided a sense of security and confidence, reinforcing psychological resilience in an environment where fear and uncertainty were constant companions. Being adequately dressed was not just a physical necessity. It was an emotional buffer against the harshness of the Ice Age. Adaptability was essential. As seasons shifted and conditions changed, clothing needed to be modified, repaired, or replaced. Hides had to be treated to maintain flexibility and insulation, while worn areas were patched or reinforced. Early humans also innovated with combinations of different furs and hides to optimize protection against wind, moisture, and cold. This continuous refinement reflects a trial-and-error process informed by experience, observation, and a deep understanding of environmental challenges. Clothing was not static. It evolved as humans learned more about materials, weather, and body needs. Ultimately, clothing transformed vulnerability into resilience. By creating garments that insulated, protected, and allowed movement, cavemen extended their capacity to explore, hunt, and endure the Ice Age. Clothing was an essential survival technology as crucial as fire or shelter, enabling humans to survive nights and days that would have been fatal to unprotected individuals. It represents a marriage of necessity and innovation, where observation of nature, experimentation with materials, and meticulous craftsmanship converge to create life-saving solutions. In conclusion, Ice Age clothing exemplifies the intelligence and adaptability of early humans. Each garment was a strategic tool, designed to confront the threats of extreme cold, wind, and snow while supporting essential activities like hunting and movement. Beyond functionality, clothing reinforced social bonds, psychological resilience, and cultural knowledge. In a world where exposure could mean death, clothing allowed cavemen not merely to survive but to thrive, transforming the cold into an environment they could navigate, endure, and even master. In the unforgiving winters of the Ice Age, securing food was only half the battle. Preserving it became an equally vital challenge. The frozen landscape offered moments of abundance during hunts or seasonal foraging, yet the scarcity of resources and prolonged periods of extreme cold demanded innovative solutions to prevent starvation. Early humans quickly realized that survival depended not only on acquiring food, but also on storing and protecting it from spoilage, scavengers, and the elements. The strategies they developed reflect a remarkable combination of observation, experimentation, and adaptive intelligence. Ice and snow themselves became natural preservation tools. Meat and other perishables could be stored on frozen surfaces, keeping them safe from immediate decay. Cavemen learned to position their food carefully, using snowbanks or shallow ice pits to shield supplies from predators while also maintaining accessibility. The freezing temperatures slowed bacterial activity, allowing meat, fish, and other protein sources to last longer than in temperate climates. While freezing was not a permanent solution, it provided crucial time to ration food, plan meals, and ensure that communities could endure periods when hunting was impossible. Drying and smoking were also common techniques. Meat could be cut into strips and hung near fires or in protected areas to remove moisture, making it less prone to spoilage. Smoking over smoldering fires added an additional layer of preservation, infusing the meat with compounds that inhibited bacteria and parasites. These methods required careful attention, as overexposure could render food inedible, while insufficient drying could allow decay. The success of these techniques depended on timing, skill, and a keen understanding of environmental conditions, illustrating how early humans applied practical knowledge to solve life-or-death problems. Roots, berries, and other plant foods also required careful handling. During winter, when fresh vegetation was scarce, cavemen stored tubers, nuts, and dried fruits for long-term consumption. These resources were often buried in the snow, packed in insulated pits, or dried over low fires to extend their shelf life. Understanding which plants could be safely stored, for how long, and under what conditions reflects both empirical observation and accumulated cultural knowledge. These strategies allowed communities to maintain a more balanced diet, mitigating the risk of malnutrition during prolonged periods of scarcity. Preservation techniques were closely tied to mobility and seasonal cycles. Nomadic groups had to balance the need for stored food with the practicality of transporting it during migrations. Lightweight drying methods, compact storage, and a selection of non-perishable items were critical for survival on the move. Communities developed systems for rationing and distributing supplies, ensuring that food lasted throughout periods of travel and hunting scarcity. These practices demonstrate that early humans approach preservation not just as a technical challenge, but as an integral part of broader survival planning. Ice Age humans also had to contend with scavengers and competing predators. Food stored improperly could attract wolves, birds, or other carnivores, leading to both loss of sustenance and potential conflict. Strategic placement of supplies, use of elevated platforms, and guarding of stored food became essential practices. By observing animal behavior and anticipating threats, early humans protected their resources, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of ecological dynamics and risk management. Preservation was not just about avoiding spoilage. It was about survival in a complex, predator-filled ecosystem. Social organization played a significant role in food preservation. Sharing resources, rationing carefully, and distributing preserved foods to the most vulnerable members reinforced group cohesion and mutual reliance. Elders and experienced hunters often supervised storage methods, teaching younger members how to protect and manage food. These practices strengthened the social fabric, ensuring that the community could collectively endure periods of hardship. Preservation was thus not merely a technical skill. It was embedded in cultural norms, survival ethics, and communal responsibility. The psychological impact of effective food preservation cannot be overstated. Knowing that stored meat, roots, or berries would last through storms, blizzards, or failed hunts provided a sense of security, reducing fear and stress. This mental reassurance allowed communities to focus on strategic planning, hunting, and maintaining social cohesion, rather than being paralyzed by the constant threat of starvation. Preservation transformed uncertainty into manageable risk, demonstrating the interplay between practical skills and mental resilience. Innovation and experimentation were central to these strategies. Early humans discovered that certain meats could be frozen whole, while others required drying or smoking. Some plants were edible only after drying or freezing, while others could be stored in ice pits or covered with snow for weeks. These discoveries were not codified in books. They were learned through trial, observation, and cultural transmission. Knowledge accumulated over generations, creating a repository of survival wisdom that allowed communities to navigate the extremes of the Ice Age reliably. Ultimately, food preservation extended beyond immediate survival. It shaped movement patterns, hunting strategies, and social organization. Communities could plan longer expeditions, rely on stored resources during extreme cold, and maintain resilience against unpredictable weather. Preservation allowed humans to transform the harshness of the environment from an insurmountable threat into a manageable challenge. By combining observation, ingenuity, and cooperation, early humans created systems that maximized caloric intake, minimized loss, and ensured continuity of life in the frozen world. In conclusion, the methods Ice Age humans developed to preserve food reflect remarkable intelligence, adaptability, and foresight. Freezing, drying, smoking, and careful storage allowed communities to survive long winters, harsh storms, and periods of scarcity. These strategies intertwined technical skill, environmental understanding, social cohesion, and psychological resilience. Food preservation was more than a necessity. It was a cornerstone of survival, enabling humans not just to endure the Ice Age, but to thrive, demonstrating the profound ingenuity that defines our species. In the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, food was a relentless concern, shaping every aspect of daily life and survival. Scarcity was a constant threat, and obtaining nourishment required ingenuity, cooperation, and deep ecological knowledge. Early humans were omnivorous foragers, skillfully balancing hunting, gathering, scavenging, and fishing to meet their caloric needs. Every meal demanded planning, observation, and risk management, for starvation was a real and immediate danger. Nutrition dictated mobility, social structure, and energy expenditure, making food acquisition not just a physical act, but a cornerstone of survival strategy. Plant-based foods played a surprisingly vital role in the Ice Age diet. Even in harsh winters, early humans sought out edible roots, tubers, seeds, nuts, and berries. Foraging required detailed knowledge of seasonal availability, environmental cues, and edible versus toxic species. Identifying and harvesting these resources demanded patience and skill, often involving tools to dig, cut, or process plant matter. Plants provided carbohydrates, fiber, and vitamins that supplemented the protein-rich diet from hunting, creating a balanced nutritional profile essential for maintaining health and cognitive function in extreme conditions. Hunting large and small game formed the backbone of Ice Age nutrition. Mammoths, bison, reindeer, and smaller herbivores supplied protein, fat, and raw materials like hides and bones. Hunting required careful planning, teamwork, and an intimate understanding of animal behavior. Hunters tracked footprints, observed feeding patterns, and anticipated migrations to intercept prey efficiently. Group hunting allowed humans to tackle larger, more dangerous animals, distributing risk and increasing success rates. Every hunt involved strategic decision-making, with life-or-death consequences driving both precision and adaptability. Scavenging complemented active hunting. Early humans capitalized on predator kills, windfalls of carrion, and remnants left by other groups. Scavenging demanded speed, awareness, and negotiation with both natural competitors and rival human groups. While less predictable than planned hunts, scavenging provided critical supplemental nutrition, particularly during lean seasons. It also required understanding predator behavior to avoid dangerous encounters, reinforcing the cognitive and risk assessment skills essential for survival in a competitive ecosystem. Food preservation was crucial for enduring periods of scarcity. Ice Age humans used a variety of techniques, including drying meat over fires, smoking it, or storing it under snow and ice to slow spoilage. Preserving food extended survival during harsh winters and allowed for resource management across days or weeks. These practices required foresight, experimentation, and knowledge of environmental conditions, highlighting the proactive rather than reactive nature of Ice Age survival strategies. By extending the utility of hunted and gathered foods, humans created a buffer against the unpredictability of the frozen world. Fishing supplemented the diet, particularly near rivers, lakes, and coastal areas. Techniques varied from spearfishing in shallow waters to constructing traps and nets. Fish provided protein and essential nutrients, offering a predictable source of food when terrestrial hunting or gathering was limited. Mastery of aquatic resources reflects a flexible and adaptive approach to survival, showing that early humans exploited every available ecological niche. Fishing also required patience, timing, and specialized tools, illustrating the combination of skill, intelligence, and environmental observation integral to sustaining life. Foraging and hunting were not isolated activities. They were deeply social. Knowledge of edible plants, animal behavior, and preservation techniques was shared across groups and generations. Elders taught the young through demonstration and storytelling, while collaborative hunting and gathering reinforced trust, coordination, and social cohesion. Children participated in foraging from an early age, learning practical skills while observing the intricacies of adult labor. The transmission of ecological and nutritional knowledge became a central pillar of community survival, blending practical experience with cultural continuity. The search for food required an understanding of seasonal cycles. Humans tracked plant growth, animal migrations, and weather patterns to anticipate resource availability. Spring thawing revealed edible shoots and allowed water access. Summer provided berries, fruits, and abundant prey. Autumn demanded preparation for winter scarcity. By following these natural rhythms, humans could plan hunting, foraging, and storage with precision. Seasonal awareness turned survival into a proactive endeavor, linking observation, planning, and adaptability in a dynamic environment. Food scarcity shaped social hierarchies and resource allocation. Group survival demanded equitable distribution of scarce resources, with decisions often mediated by leaders, elders, or skilled hunters. Sharing ensured that vulnerable individuals, children, elders, or the injured, received sustenance, reinforcing communal bonds and social cohesion. Food became both a practical necessity and a social instrument, influencing relationships, trust, and cooperation. Managing scarcity effectively was critical, as mismanagement could result in starvation, conflict, or weaken community resilience. Cognitive skills were essential for successful food acquisition. Tracking game, identifying edible plants, constructing traps, and storing resources required problem-solving, memory, and innovation. Humans adapted strategies based on past successes and failures, learning from trial and error while refining techniques across generations. This cumulative knowledge formed the foundation of survival intelligence, demonstrating that Ice Age humans were not merely reactive creatures, but adaptive thinkers capable of complex planning and foresight. Risk was ever present. Hunting large animals could result in injury or death, while gathering unfamiliar plants carried the danger of toxicity. Predators competed for the same resources, and environmental hazards like avalanches, ice, or storms added complexity. Humans learned to balance risk and reward, deciding when to hunt, when to forage, and when to conserve energy. This risk management was both cognitive and social, involving communication, planning, and shared vigilance, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of survival dynamics. Food acquisition also intersected with ritual and belief. Successful hunts were often celebrated through communal ceremonies, dances, or offerings, reinforcing group cohesion and expressing respect for the natural world. Plants and animals were sometimes incorporated into symbolic practices, linking sustenance with spiritual understanding. These rituals provided psychological resilience, creating structure and meaning around activities that were otherwise fraught with danger and uncertainty. By integrating survival with culture, humans reinforced both practical skills and communal identity. Preserving knowledge about food sources, hunting grounds, and seasonal patterns ensured continuity across generations. Elders acted as repositories of ecological information, teaching younger members about safe plants, efficient hunting techniques, and optimal storage methods. Storytelling and demonstration were vital tools for transmitting this knowledge, transforming individual experience into collective wisdom. This system of education allowed communities to maintain resilience despite environmental unpredictability, ensuring that each generation could build upon the strategies of the past. In conclusion, food and foraging were the lifeblood of Ice Age human survival. Every aspect of acquisition, from plant identification and hunting to preservation and distribution, required intelligence, skill, cooperation, and foresight. Humans navigated scarcity, predators, and environmental hazards through observation, innovation, and social organization. Food was more than sustenance. It was a driver of cognitive, cultural, and social development. By mastering the challenges of nutrition in extreme conditions, early humans transformed scarcity into strategy, danger into opportunity, and survival into a sophisticated, coordinated endeavor that defined their enduring resilience. Nightfall in the Ice Age was not merely the absence of light. It was a time of heightened danger, intense cold, and profound vulnerability. For cavemen, sleep was essential to restore energy for hunting, foraging, and daily survival. Yet the act of resting carried risk. Exposure to freezing temperatures, attacks from predators, and the potential loss of fire or shelter made each night a delicate negotiation between the need for rest and the instinct for vigilance. Sleep in this era was a carefully managed survival strategy, where preparation, environment, and social cooperation intersected to preserve both life and mental resilience. Caves and shelters provided the primary locations for sleep, offering protection from wind, snow, and predators. Inside these spaces, early humans arranged sleeping areas to maximize warmth and minimize exposure. Animal hides, furs, and layered clothing were essential, insulating against sub-zero temperatures. Sleeping positions were often strategic. Curling up minimized heat loss, while proximity to a fire or other humans shared warmth. Every aspect of sleep, from location to posture, was guided by survival necessity, reflecting a deep understanding of how environmental conditions affected the body's ability to maintain warmth and energy through the night. Fire played a critical role in nighttime survival. A centrally placed flame not only warmed the shelter, but also created a psychological sense of safety. The flickering light warded off predators and provided a focal point for social interaction before rest. Cavemen learned to maintain embers throughout the night, replenishing fuel quietly to ensure the fire never extinguished. This vigilance allowed groups to rest more deeply, balancing the need for recuperation with the ongoing requirement for alertness. Fire, in essence, extended the day, allowing humans to conserve energy and sustain life in an environment where darkness was as dangerous as cold. The cold dictated sleep patterns. During the harshest winter nights, humans often segmented sleep, taking short periods of rest interspersed with activity to maintain body heat. They would rotate duties such as tending fires, watching for predators, or guarding children, creating a collective rhythm that balanced rest and safety. These patterns reflect an intimate knowledge of physiology. Humans recognized that uninterrupted exposure could be fatal, and adaptation involved not only clothing and shelter, but also careful scheduling of rest. Sleep was thus both a physical and social strategy, tightly integrated with environmental and communal considerations. Sound and sensory awareness were heightened at night. Cavemen remained attuned to the noises of predators, shifting ice, and storms. Even in deep sleep, the group's collective alertness helped mitigate danger. The placement of individuals within the shelter often reflected their roles. Stronger adults on the periphery to guard against threats, while children and elders rested closer to the fire and center for warmth and safety. This spatial organization created a dynamic interplay between protection, comfort, and efficiency, ensuring that sleep supported survival rather than undermining it. Dreams and mental processing may also have been influenced by the harsh environment. Sleep provided an opportunity for the brain to consolidate knowledge, recall hunting strategies, and process social interactions. The cognitive demands of survival, tracking prey, navigating landscapes, and predicting weather, required mental rehearsal, and sleep allowed these skills to solidify. In this way, rest was not passive. It was an active component of learning and adaptation, shaping both intelligence and resilience in early humans. Ice Age humans also used sleep to regulate energy expenditure. Conserving warmth, reducing movement, and minimizing exposure were essential, especially during long winters with scarce food. Huddling together, using layers of hides, and maintaining shelter efficiency allowed for more restorative rest, which in turn supported hunting, foraging, and social cooperation during waking hours. Sleep was intimately tied to survival economics. It was a controlled way to conserve energy while maintaining readiness for inevitable challenges. Psychologically, the act of sleeping near others strengthened social bonds and reinforced communal trust. The shared vulnerability of nighttime created opportunities for teaching, storytelling, and reassurance before rest. Children learned patterns of safety, survival routines, and the value of cooperation, while adults reinforced leadership and protective roles. The social structure of rest reflected the interdependence of the group, showing that survival was not merely individual but deeply communal. Sleep in the Ice Age was therefore as much about social cohesion as it was about physical restoration. Predator threats were a constant consideration. Wolves, bears, and other carnivores often hunted at night, and even small mammals could pose risks to stored food or sleeping infants. Vigilance, strategic shelter placement, and careful organization of sleeping arrangements were critical. In some cases, early humans may have used noise, fire, or other deterrents to reduce the risk of attack, creating a controlled environment where the biological need for sleep could be balanced with the environmental risks. Ultimately, night and sleep in the Ice Age highlight the complex interplay between vulnerability and strategy. Rest was not a passive state, but a carefully orchestrated component of survival, integrating environmental awareness, social structure, physical needs, and psychological resilience. Sleep allowed early humans to recuperate while preparing for the next day's challenges, turning a period of danger into one of restoration and planning. It was a nightly negotiation with the cold, predators, and uncertainty, a rhythm that defined life in the frozen world. In conclusion, sleep in the Ice Age was a delicate, adaptive process that combined physiology, psychology, and community strategy. Shelters, fire, clothing, and social vigilance transformed the perilous night into a period of restoration and learning. By mastering rest in extreme conditions, cavemen maintained the energy, alertness, and resilience necessary to endure the coldest nights, illustrating the sophistication and ingenuity that defined prehistoric survival. Sleep was not merely an act of rest. It was a cornerstone of life, strategy, and human endurance. In the relentless winters of the Ice Age, survival depended not only on fire, clothing, and food, but also on the strength of social bonds. Family and community provided warmth, protection, and a framework for cooperation that made life in the frozen wilderness possible. Early humans lived in tightly knit groups where each member had a defined role, whether as hunter, gatherer, child, elder, or protector. These roles were crucial for both practical survival and psychological stability, offering a sense of continuity and security amidst constant environmental threats. Social life was therefore as much a survival tool as any physical adaptation, providing cohesion, trust, and the shared knowledge necessary to endure the harshest conditions. Family structures were often multi-generational, combining the wisdom of elders with the energy and adaptability of youth. Elders acted as repositories of knowledge, teaching younger members about hunting strategies, plant identification, fire maintenance, and seasonal patterns. Children learned through observation, imitation, and storytelling, absorbing both practical skills and cultural knowledge essential for survival. The family unit was not merely a social construct. It was a functional survival system, distributing responsibilities, pooling resources, and ensuring that knowledge and experience were transmitted across generations. Cooperation extended beyond individual families to the broader community. Hunting, food gathering, and shelter construction were often group efforts, requiring coordination, planning, and trust. Success depended on collective intelligence and shared labor, with individuals contributing skills that complemented one another. Social bonds facilitated this cooperation, as mutual dependence created incentives for sharing, protection, and loyalty. The harsh environment amplified the importance of these connections, making the survival of the group inseparable from the survival of each individual within it. Communication was central to social life. Early humans used vocalizations, gestures, facial expressions, and possibly early symbolic language to convey information about hunting, danger, or or social norms. This allowed groups to coordinate complex tasks, signal threats, and teach essential survival strategies. Even subtle cues, such as the positioning of bodies around a fire or the arrangement of sleeping areas, conveyed social hierarchy and responsibility. Effective communication strengthened trust, enabled cooperation, and enhanced the ability to respond adaptively to environmental challenges, turning social cohesion into a vital survival mechanism. Social rituals reinforced bonds and provided psychological resilience. Simple acts, such as sharing food, tending the young, or sitting together around a fire, fostered a sense of belonging and mutual support. Storytelling, songs, and communal activities passed down cultural values, survival strategies, and collective memory. These rituals created continuity and structure, offering comfort in a world of uncertainty. The predictability and rhythm of social life acted as a psychological anchor, reducing fear and anxiety during long, cold nights when threats loomed outside the shelter. Care for the vulnerable was a central aspect of social life. Infants, the elderly, and the injured were protected and nurtured, their survival ensured by collective effort. Shared responsibilities meant that those unable to contribute physically could still play vital roles within the community, such as knowledge keepers or observers of environmental patterns. This system of mutual support highlights the intelligence and empathy that underpinned early human societies, showing that survival was both a physical and moral enterprise. Play and learning were also integrated into social life. Children engaged in mock hunting, tracking games, and other activities that built essential skills while reinforcing social cohesion. Adults supervised and guided, balancing safety with experiential learning. These interactions were critical for preparing the next generation to navigate the frozen environment successfully. Play was not frivolous. It was a vital component of cognitive development and practical education, ensuring that skills, knowledge, and survival instincts were ingrained from an early age. Conflict and hierarchy were present, but managed through social norms. Cooperation did not eliminate tension. Disputes over resources, status, or decisions could arise. However, the need for collective survival encouraged mechanisms of conflict resolution, negotiation, and role recognition. Leaders often emerged based on skill, wisdom, or physical prowess, guiding the group through critical decisions such as hunting routes, shelter selection, or migration. Hierarchy, therefore, was functional rather than arbitrary, optimizing group efficiency and survival chances. The bonds of social life extended to emotional support as well. In an environment dominated by cold, hunger, and danger, the presence of others offered comfort, motivation, and reassurance. Physical closeness, such as huddling together for warmth or shared childcare, reinforced both physiological and psychological well-being. Emotional bonds strengthened resilience, making individuals more capable of enduring hardships and maintaining focus on the collective good. Survival was never purely individual. It relied on empathy, cooperation, and the reinforcement of communal identity. Social life also intertwined with technological and cultural innovation. Knowledge about fire, hunting tools, clothing, and food preservation was transmitted through communal teaching and shared experience. Group living allowed experimentation and learning from collective successes and failures, accelerating innovation and adaptation. Communities that nurtured cooperation and knowledge exchange were more likely to survive, demonstrating the profound link between social structure and technological advancement. Ultimately, family and social bonds were the invisible infrastructure of Ice Age survival. They provided warmth, protection, education, emotional support, and the coordination necessary for hunting, gathering, and shelter building. Without these networks, individual skill and ingenuity would have been insufficient to overcome the challenges of the frozen world. Social cohesion transformed human life from mere existence into a coordinated, resilient enterprise, illustrating that survival was as much about relationships as it was about tools or physical endurance. In conclusion, The social structures of Ice Age humans exemplify the interdependence of community, culture, and survival. Family units, cooperative networks, and communal rituals created both physical and psychological buffers against the harsh realities of winter. Social bonds enabled knowledge transmission, skill development, and emotional resilience, ensuring that survival extended beyond a single generation. In a world defined by cold, scarcity, and danger, human connection was one of the most effective strategies for enduring the Ice Age, demonstrating that warmth came not only from fire or clothing, but from the strength of relationships and shared purpose. Beyond the physical necessities of fire, shelter, and food, Ice Age humans cultivated a rich world of rituals and beliefs that helped them endure the psychological and emotional challenges of survival. The harsh winters and unpredictable environment made life precarious, and rituals became a way to exert a sense of control over uncertainty. Spiritual practices, ceremonial activities, and symbolic thinking provided meaning, comfort, and cohesion, allowing communities to navigate danger, scarcity, and fear with resilience and shared understanding. These beliefs were not merely abstract. They intertwined with survival strategies, shaping behavior, social norms, and environmental interactions. Fire was often central to rituals and spiritual life. The flickering flames, which provided warmth and protection, became a symbol of life, continuity, and human ingenuity. Communities might gather around fire for storytelling, ceremonial dances, or invocations to unseen forces, reinforcing social bonds while expressing reverence for the elemental force that sustained them. Fire rituals also marked the passage of time, the changing of seasons, or successful hunts, blending practical survival with spiritual significance. In this way, fire served dual roles: a tool for life and a focal point for the psyche, anchoring both the body and the spirit against the uncertainty of the cold world. Caves and shelters themselves were often sites of symbolic activity. Archaeological evidence suggests that early humans created art on cave walls, carved symbols into bone and stone, and arranged objects with apparent ceremonial intent. These activities may have been intended to honor spirits, attract game, or commemorate significant events. The interplay between environment, survival, and symbolism reveals a mind deeply engaged with both the material and spiritual worlds. Caves were not only protective shelters, but also sacred spaces where communities could connect with forces beyond their immediate understanding, reinforcing a sense of order and purpose in a chaotic natural landscape. Animal reverence was another important aspect of Ice Age spirituality. Many rituals appear to have centered on successful hunts, the spirits of prey animals, and the balance between humans and their environment. Hunters may have performed gestures, dances, or offerings to ensure future success, demonstrating an early understanding of ecological interconnectedness. The respect for animal life was pragmatic as well as spiritual, reflecting a recognition that survival depended on sustainable interactions with the natural world. By integrating belief systems with practical survival strategies, early humans cultivated a worldview that combined respect, gratitude, and foresight. Rituals also helped manage fear and uncertainty. The Ice Age was filled with dangers: storms, predators, failed hunts, and disease. Ceremonial practices, chanting, or collective storytelling provided psychological stability, offering a sense of control in situations where human agency was limited. These practices reinforced social cohesion, creating collective reassurance that the community was protected by shared wisdom, ancestral knowledge, or spiritual forces. Rituals became a coping mechanism, transforming anxiety into structured, predictable action and giving meaning to the unpredictable cycles of nature. Life cycles were marked with ritual significance. Births, coming of age, marriages, and deaths were occasions for ceremonies that reinforced social structure and intergenerational continuity. New members were integrated into the group with instruction, guidance, and ritual recognition, while those who passed away were honored in ways that maintained memory and respect. These practices provided emotional support, reinforced identity, and emphasized the continuity of the community, even in the face of frequent mortality. Rituals acted as a bridge between the physical challenges of survival and the psychological need for stability and meaning. Symbolic objects played a critical role in rituals and beliefs. Tools, amulets, carved bones, and painted stones served as tangible representations of spiritual concepts, protective powers, or group identity. They were not merely functional. They carried emotional and cognitive significance, reinforcing lessons, stories, and communal values. Possession and use of these items connected individuals to both their community and the natural forces they sought to understand or influence. This intertwining of practical and symbolic thinking highlights the sophistication of Ice Age cognition, demonstrating that survival extended into the realms of imagination, creativity, and culture. Seasonal rituals were closely tied to survival cycles. Ceremonies associated with the winter solstice, animal migrations, or weather changes helped humans anticipate and psychologically prepare for environmental challenges. These events reinforced communal cooperation, synchronized hunting and gathering efforts, and structured social life around predictable patterns. By ritualizing natural cycles, early humans created a rhythm that allowed them to anticipate scarcity, conserve resources, and maintain social cohesion. The fusion of observation, anticipation, and symbolic practice demonstrates that rituals were not escapism. They were tools for adaptation and resilience. Rituals and beliefs also reinforced social hierarchies and roles. Leaders, shamans, or elders often guided ceremonies, passing knowledge, assigning responsibilities, and interpreting natural signs. Their authority was both practical and symbolic, ensuring coordination and reinforcing trust within the community. By linking survival knowledge with ritual practice, societies encoded crucial skills, strategies, and warnings into cultural memory, making belief systems a medium for transmitting wisdom across generations. This integration of leadership, ritual, and education exemplifies how spirituality and survival were mutually reinforcing. Ultimately, rituals and beliefs provided a framework for understanding and navigating the Ice Age world. They offered meaning, mitigated fear, and strengthened community bonds, complementing the physical strategies of fire, clothing, and shelter. Spiritual practices enhanced resilience, allowing humans to endure extreme cold, scarcity, and danger while maintaining psychological equilibrium. They exemplify the uniquely human capacity to integrate cognition, emotion, and culture into a comprehensive system of survival. In conclusion, the rituals and beliefs of Ice Age humans were deeply intertwined with both practical survival and psychological resilience. Fire, caves, animal reverence, and symbolic practices created a bridge between the harshness of winter and the human need for meaning, control, and community. These spiritual fires illuminated the mind as well as the body, providing cohesion, guidance, and hope amidst uncertainty. Rituals were more than ceremonies. They were survival tools, cultural memory, and expressions of humanity's capacity to endure, adapt, and find significance in a frozen and dangerous world. For Ice Age humans, animals were both allies and adversaries, central to survival, yet capable of delivering sudden death. The frozen landscapes teemed with prey such as mammoths, reindeer, bison, and smaller game, providing essential protein, hides, and bones. At the same time, predators like wolves, cave lions, and bears posed constant threats, stalking humans as they hunted, traveled, or rested. Hunting and animal interactions demanded keen observation, strategy, and courage. Survival was a delicate dance where timing, knowledge, and instinct determined life or death. Understanding animals, their behavior, migration, and vulnerabilities was crucial for securing resources while avoiding becoming prey. Ice Age, humans became acute observers of animal behavior. Patterns of migration, feeding, and nesting were studied over years, allowing hunters to predict movements and locate prey efficiently. For example, Following the tracks of reindeer or observing the behavior of scavengers could reveal the location of water or food. Knowledge of predator habits also informed hunting and travel decisions. Cavemen learned when and where to strike, how to avoid ambushes, and how to minimize risk, transforming observation into a survival science that combined intuition, experience, and environmental understanding. Hunting strategies were diverse and often adapted to the size and danger of the target. Small game could be trapped, snared, or chased, providing quick and relatively safe sources of protein. Larger animals required coordinated group efforts, employing tactics like ambushes, driving herds toward cliffs, or using fire to manipulate movement. Weapons evolved alongside strategy, including spears, throwing sticks, and eventually rudimentary bows. Every hunt was a calculated risk, where success depended on intelligence, timing, coordination, and understanding the animal's physical and behavioral weaknesses. Predator awareness was equally vital. Humans had to contend with wolves, bears, and other carnivores competing for the same resources. Shelters were often fortified with bone, rock, or fire to deter attacks, while hunting parties remained vigilant, scanning the terrain for signs of danger. The ability to predict predator behavior and respond proactively saved lives and ensured the stability of the group. This constant balancing of offensive and defensive strategies demonstrates that hunting in the Ice Age was a sophisticated interaction with the ecosystem, blending risk assessment, environmental knowledge, and tactical execution. Animals also provided materials beyond food. Hides offered clothing and shelter insulation. Bones and antlers were crafted into tools, weapons, and even ceremonial objects. Sinews served as thread for sewing. Every part of the animal was utilized, reflecting a deep understanding of resource efficiency and the interconnectedness of survival needs. Killing an animal was not merely a source of sustenance. It was a multifaceted resource management strategy that supported clothing, shelter, tools, and culture, maximizing the return on risk and effort. Tracking skills were central to hunting success. Early humans developed techniques to interpret footprints, broken vegetation, droppings, and other subtle signs. These skills allowed them to anticipate the movement of herds or predators, plan ambushes, and navigate complex terrain without relying on modern tools. Tracking was both science and art, requiring patience, attention to detail, and memory, and it was often taught through apprenticeship, storytelling, and demonstration. Mastery of tracking was a key survival skill, connecting humans intimately to the natural world and the rhythms of animal life. Hunting also reinforced social cohesion. Group hunts required coordination, communication, and trust, fostering interdependence and collective skill development. Roles were divided. Some individuals distracted prey, others struck, and others maintained lookout for predators. Success was shared, as was the risk, reinforcing social bonds and communal reliance. Through hunting, humans learned cooperation, strategy, and leadership, illustrating that survival depended as much on group dynamics as on individual prowess. Risk assessment was embedded in every interaction with animals. Approaching large prey carried high mortality risk, but the nutritional payoff justified the danger. Smaller, safer animals provided steady sustenance, but required more time and effort. Humans constantly balanced these trade-offs, developing flexible strategies that incorporated environmental conditions, seasonality, and group needs. This adaptive thinking reflects a cognitive sophistication that allowed early humans to survive where brute strength alone would have been insufficient. Animals also played a role in culture and ritual. Cave paintings, carvings, and symbolic depictions often featured prey species, highlighting their importance in both sustenance and spiritual life. Successful hunts were celebrated, sometimes with ritual gestures, dances, or offerings, linking practical survival to cultural expression. These practices reinforced group identity, respect for nature, and the continuity of knowledge, illustrating how hunting was inseparable from both daily life and the broader cognitive and social frameworks of Ice Age communities. The psychological dimension of hunting was significant. Fear, anticipation, and exhilaration coexisted, shaping alertness, strategy, and emotional resilience. Hunters had to manage adrenaline, assess danger, and maintain focus under extreme stress. These experiences honed decision-making, risk management, and situational awareness, reinforcing survival skills that extended beyond hunting to all aspects of daily life. The interplay between courage, intellect, and emotional control defined the human approach to the animal world, making hunting as much a test of mind as a body. Ultimately, interactions with animals defined life in the Ice Age. Hunting provided food, clothing, and tools. Predators demanded vigilance, skill, and strategy. Observation informed planning and innovation, and rituals connected survival to culture and meaning. Mastery of the animal world required intelligence, coordination, and adaptability, turning the challenges of the natural environment into a structured system of survival. Through these dynamic interactions, early humans developed not only physical resilience, but also cognitive sophistication, social cooperation, and cultural depth. In conclusion, the survival dance between humans, prey, and predators illustrates the complexity of Ice Age life. Success depended on observation, strategy, skill, and group coordination, while failure could be fatal. Animals were central to sustenance, technology, and culture, shaping every aspect of human adaptation. Hunting and predator awareness were not merely practical activities. They were arenas of learning, social cohesion, and psychological resilience. By navigating the dangers and opportunities presented by the animal world, early humans forged a path of survival, ingenuity, and cultural evolution in one of Earth's most challenging environments. Fire was the cornerstone of Ice Age survival, a tool that transformed freezing landscapes into habitable environments. Beyond warmth, fire provided light, protection from predators, and a means to cook and preserve food, unlocking nutrients that raw diets could not supply. Early humans mastered the creation, maintenance, and transportation of fire, developing techniques such as striking stones, using friction from wood, or carrying embers between camps. This mastery was not merely technical. It was a cognitive leap, demonstrating foresight, planning, and an understanding of cause and effect. Fire extended the boundaries of human life, making nights safer, journeys more feasible, and survival in extreme cold possible. Shelters and fire worked in tandem. Fire placed strategically inside caves or constructed huts provided both warmth and safety. Cavemen learned to manage ventilation, prevent smoke buildup, and protect the flame from wind or snow, balancing energy use with environmental hazards. Fire became central to communal life, a gathering point for cooking, storytelling, and social bonding. The ability to manipulate fire effectively shaped human activity, extending waking hours, facilitating communication, and reinforcing social structures, showing that technological innovation was inseparable from both physical survival and community cohesion. Tools were equally critical. Stone tools, sharpened sticks, bone implements, and eventually more complex weapons enabled humans to hunt, process food, construct shelters, and defend against predators. Tool-making required observation, precision, and planning. Each modification, flaking a stone edge, carving a spear, or shaping a bone, reflected a combination of practical skill and cognitive insight. Tools multiplied human capability, turning raw physicality into amplified efficiency, and allowed early humans to exploit their environment in ways that other species could not. Fire enhanced the effectiveness of tools. Heated stones could aid in shaping wood or bone, while controlled flames allowed for cooking and preserving meat. Fire also enabled the hardening of wooden spears, increasing durability and penetration power during hunts. This integration of fire and tool-making reflects a sophisticated understanding of materials and their properties. Humans learned to manipulate both natural and crafted elements, demonstrating problem-solving skills that extended beyond immediate survival into early engineering and technological adaptation. Cooking was a transformative use of fire. By applying heat to meat, roots, and tubers, humans increased caloric intake, improved digestibility, and reduced the risk of disease from parasites or bacteria. Cooking extended the utility of preserved food, making long-term storage more feasible and reducing the energy required for digestion. The combination of fire and cooking reshaped human physiology and nutrition, supporting the development of larger brains and more complex social behaviors. Fire became not only a survival tool, but a catalyst for biological and cultural evolution. Fire also played a protective role against predators. The presence of flames deterred wolves, bears, and other dangerous animals, creating a perimeter of safety around sleeping and cooking areas. This protective function allowed humans to rest more securely, focus on hunting and food preparation, and maintain shelters in exposed or high-risk locations. Fire served as both a physical and psychological barrier, providing reassurance and enabling more efficient management of group resources. Tool use extended beyond hunting and protection. Stone scrapers, axes, and knives allowed humans to process hides for clothing, construct shelters, and craft containers for water or food. Bone and antler tools facilitated sewing, fishing, and small-scale construction. These innovations were cumulative, passed down through observation, teaching, and cultural transmission. Each advancement enhanced survival efficiency, demonstrating that technological development was iterative, communal, and directly tied to environmental challenges. Socially, tool-making and fire maintenance reinforced cooperation and knowledge sharing. Mastery of these technologies often required apprenticeship, collective experimentation, and observation of skilled individuals. Knowledge of fire creation, tool production, and maintenance became embedded in social structure, with experienced members guiding the younger generation. This transmission of skills strengthened communal resilience, ensuring that essential survival knowledge persisted across generations, making technology both practical and cultural. Psychologically, fire and tools provided reassurance and agency. In an environment dominated by cold, scarcity, and predators, humans gained a sense of control over their surroundings. The ability to create warmth, defend against danger, and manipulate resources mitigated fear and anxiety, reinforcing confidence and decision-making. These technologies allowed humans to transform an inhospitable world into a manageable one, illustrating the interplay between material innovation and psychological resilience. Environmental adaptation was also enhanced by tools and fire. Ice Age humans could process wood for shelters, carve stone for hunting, or manipulate hides for clothing, extending their survival range. Fire allowed humans to inhabit regions that would otherwise have been unlivable due to extreme cold. The interplay between environmental knowledge, technological skill, and adaptive behavior created a feedback loop where innovation reinforced survival, and survival demanded further innovation. Ultimately, fire and tools were not merely implements. They were extensions of human intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. They multiplied physical capabilities, enhanced social cohesion, and provided security and psychological stability. The mastery of these technologies marked a profound evolutionary advantage, allowing humans to survive and thrive in some of the harshest climates on Earth. By integrating fire, tools, and communal knowledge, Ice Age humans transformed the frozen wilderness from a domain of constant threat into a landscape of opportunity and innovation. In conclusion, fire and tools exemplify the ingenuity and foresight that defined Ice Age survival. Fire extended warmth, safety, and nutrition, while tools amplified human ability to hunt, process resources, and construct shelters. Together, they illustrate the interplay between cognitive innovation, practical skill, and social cooperation, demonstrating that technological mastery was as crucial to survival as physical strength or environmental knowledge. These elements underscore the profound capacity of humans to adapt, transform, and endure in extreme conditions, turning danger into opportunity and survival into a sophisticated, coordinated endeavor. The story of Ice Age humans is ultimately a story of resilience, ingenuity, and adaptation. Through fire, tools, clothing, shelters, social bonds, and rituals. Early humans carved a fragile yet enduring existence in landscapes that were as beautiful as they were unforgiving. Every element of life, from the hunt to sleep, from water management to migration, reflected a delicate balance between risk and reward, vulnerability and resourcefulness. Survival was not accidental. It was the result of observation, experimentation, cooperation, and a profound understanding of the natural world. Humans transformed scarcity, cold, and danger into opportunities for creativity, community, and cultural development. Resilience was built on the integration of physical, cognitive, and social strategies. The ability to endure freezing nights depended on clothing, fire, and shelters, while hunting required skill, cooperation, and knowledge of animal behavior. Migration demanded endurance, foresight, and coordination, and rituals provided psychological support and social cohesion. Each domain of survival reinforced the others, creating a holistic system in which humans were both reactive to and proactive within their environment. The interplay of these strategies demonstrates a sophisticated adaptive intelligence that combined instinct, learning, and cultural knowledge. Social bonds amplified resilience. Family units, cooperative hunting, and shared child-rearing provided not only practical support, but also emotional strength. Trust, communication, and shared responsibility allowed communities to manage risk collectively, while the transmission of knowledge ensured that survival strategies persisted across generations. Social cohesion transformed individual vulnerability into collective strength, making humans more than solitary creatures. They became communities capable of enduring extremes that no single individual could survive alone. Psychological resilience was equally critical. The constant presence of cold, hunger, and predators could have produced despair, yet humans developed strategies to manage fear and uncertainty. Rituals, storytelling, shared fire, and symbolic practices offered reassurance, a sense of control, and continuity. Mental fortitude was cultivated through practice, experience, and cultural reinforcement, showing that survival depended as much on cognitive and emotional capacities as on physical adaptations. The mind became as important as the body, shaping responses to environmental pressures and reinforcing the strategies necessary for endurance. Technological innovation played a defining role. Mastery of fire, development of tools, and clever use of natural materials amplified human capabilities and extended the reach of survival strategies. Tools enhanced hunting efficiency, food processing, and shelter construction, while fire allowed warmth, cooking, and protection. Each technological advance represented both immediate practical benefit and cumulative knowledge, forming a legacy of problem-solving and ingenuity. The human capacity to innovate transformed limitations into opportunities, allowing communities to inhabit landscapes that would have been otherwise impossible to survive. Adaptation to the environment required acute observation and understanding. Humans learned to read the rhythms of weather, animal migrations, and plant cycles. They developed strategies for resource management, water conservation, and energy expenditure, turning raw knowledge into applied survival techniques. This adaptability was not static. It evolved as environmental conditions changed, demonstrating flexibility, foresight, and the ability to learn from both success and failure. Humans became active participants in their ecosystem, shaping and responding to it in a dynamic, reciprocal relationship. Survival in the Ice Age was also a story of cumulative cultural evolution. Skills, rituals, and knowledge were transmitted across generations, creating a continuity that allowed humans to thrive over millennia. Each generation built upon the successes and lessons of the previous, enhancing efficiency, innovation, and social structure. Cultural memory preserves strategies for hunting, shelter building, tool making, and social cooperation, ensuring that humans not only survived but gradually improved their ability to navigate extreme conditions. This intergenerational transmission of wisdom exemplifies the uniquely human capacity to learn collectively and plan for the future. The human relationship with animals exemplifies the complexity of Ice Age life. Prey provided sustenance, hides, and materials, while predators posed constant threats. Observation, tracking, and hunting required skill and knowledge, blending courage with strategy. Animals were deeply integrated into both practical survival and spiritual life, shaping rituals, beliefs, and cultural expression. The interplay between humans and animals reflects a dynamic understanding of ecosystems, where survival depended on both exploitation and respect, skill and intuition, danger and opportunity. Migration illustrates human adaptability on a grand scale. By following seasonal patterns, tracking herds, and relocating in response to scarcity, humans maximized resource availability while minimizing risk. These journeys demanded endurance, planning, cooperation, and environmental knowledge. Migration reinforced social bonds, transmitted knowledge, and enhanced cognitive flexibility, demonstrating that survival was a mobile, adaptive process rather than a static struggle. The landscape, though harsh and unpredictable, became a canvas on which humans exercised foresight, coordination, and resilience. Ultimately, the resilience of early humans was holistic. It encompassed body, mind, and society, technology, observation, and ritual, risk, reward, and opportunity. Survival was not the result of luck, but of a continuous, deliberate interplay between intelligence, cooperation, and adaptation. Humans navigated the cold, scarcity, and danger of the Ice Age by transforming challenges into structured strategies, relying on both innovation and tradition. The frozen world tested them, but also shaped them into resourceful, intelligent, and socially cohesive beings. In conclusion, the story of Ice Age survival is a testament to human ingenuity, adaptability, and enduring spirit. Every night survived, every hunt executed, every shelter built, and every ritual performed was a triumph of resilience against one of Earth's most extreme environments. Early humans did more than endure. They learned, innovated, collaborated, and created meaning amidst the cold and danger. Their legacy is a profound demonstration of what it means to survive not just physically but cognitively, socially, and culturally. The resilience of early humans stands as a timeless testament to the power of intelligence, cooperation, and adaptation in the face of relentless adversity.